if we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones. And we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of 6 strong power stations.
Yes. It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to make them understand that, look, going forward, it's no longer going to be business as usual. Whatever that may be happening in the past, we want to now be able to put a system in place that will checkmate, correct the ills of the past, give us a new pedestal from which to stand and operate going forward.
Officially, what we get in the country, 79% is from crude, foreign exchange, 11% is from oil, from gas, natural gas. Between the two of them is 90%.
If we are getting whatever it is we are getting from oil revenue today, you look at the oil revenue, is more than enough to take Nigeria to her next level. But at the end of the day, the processes, the leakages, and so many things that have become like an epidemic on our economy will not allow whatever we are gaining or getting from this deposit or these blessings from God to give us what we are looking for.
The coming of Brazil now this time is important. Then first they have to organize a workshop for these herders, those who rear cows. This is why it's good for you to have your cows in a particular place, and these are things you do to feed them well, and they will equally have good meat for consumption.
Good to have you again on the program, and of course it still remains the economy today on KAFTAN television. It's a pleasure to say that we would run it together again this day, and then I've got a guest with me with whom we will do it. Of course, apart from the fact that we have our segments to bring on the program, talking about having from the business news, having news beats, and our discussion, and if possible, we could talk about the money market. But whatever happens, we just want to begin with the discussion today as a result of the way things have cropped up today. Not forgetting to say apologies again that we're not starting recently at the official time. Well, I have a guest that is also a colleague. He is a broadcaster, but then he is a Nigerian, so he knows what's going on in the economic matters. And so he's here with me on the program today. I'm talking about Chukwunalo Eke. Chukwunalo, it's a pleasure having you on the program today.
Yes, good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here with you, sir.
Right.
Yes,
we have a topic, and that topic in it says foodstuff price reduction. Hope for tomorrow? That's a question that we've just asked. And so we want to, as you look at that topic here, foodstuff price reduction, hope for tomorrow, that's a question. As you look at that, we also want to discuss that. Because I found out recently from the markets that, of course, when we do market survey, found out that the price of food has started coming down somewhat, and so there's hope on the horizon for foodstuff price reduction in Nigeria. That is what we will conclude. But then, of course, as we discuss, we will also find out more. Food inflation has slowed down significantly, standing at 10.84% year on year in December 2025. Down from 39.38% in December 2024. So there is an improvement. This moderation is driven by improved food supply, easing foreign exchange pressures, and reduced import costs. You know, of course, that foreign exchange pressures have really eased off a lot more in Nigeria, and it's a welcome thing, and we're hoping that more of it will happen. And why we're also looking at that is that finding out that the government is supporting farmers to ensure food production doesn't decline. And prices don't skyrocket anymore. That is when the food production does not decline. The prices would also not think of skyrocketing. Some staple foods like rice, yam, beans have already seen price drops on a serious note, really. And for instance, a bag of local rice now costs between 55,000 and 59,000, depending on the quality, because definitely there are qualities. In fact, there is even a lesser quality rice that you can find less than 55. I also know that there are some very good quality rice that you can find also less than 55,000 naira bag right now, 50 kg bag right now, because of maybe the way it was done. I think there are reasons for which it's so. So it's still coming down even, because these statistics we're talking about could be the statistics of before December. Right now we're talking about it in January, or as it's December. And so we also see that that it used to be 88,000. In actual fact, I remember that last year, early last year, towards in the second quarter of last year, that rice got to as high as 100,000 naira per 50 kg bag, and that was a period I was arranging for my mother's funeral. So I am very sure of what I'm saying, that we bought it then, looking at it that way. And just immediately after that program, after the end of the second quarter, the price of rice just came down. It was good anyway, because at least from then it's been that way. So we hope it will continue. So we'll talk about better food for everybody all around. However, challenges persist, including insecurity, high agricultural input costs, and climate shocks. So these are still some challenges. About 34.7 million Nigerians are projected to face food insecurity between June and August this year, 2026, between June and August. And so certain things must happen as to see that it does not happen, that does not come to play. Looking at the fact that we are rejoicing over the fact that there is reduction in the cost of the price of foodstuff now. June is still not far away from here, just 5 months from here, because we've already gone into deep into January. So 5 months from here, we'll talk about having June. And between June and August, we've been told there could be an increase if these basic things are not taken care of. And so people know that there is need for them to start doing certain things, like, buying in bulk, doing bulk buying when it is cheaper, and so that by the time it may rise. If you notice, I said may rise. Why I'm saying so is that the price of beans never rose. The price of beans, there used to be people I know of some people who normally will buy, there are people who normally will buy bags and sacks, this time not even bags, but sacks of beans, and store, hoping that by that time they will now add the money and all that and make some gains. Incidentally, they were disappointed last year, so I hope that there will be further disappointment this year, so that it will continue, that people will have food around the year, all around the year, talking about, so that we'll make sure that nothing goes wrong anymore. But then there are things that are involved when you talk about these things. You talk about buying in bulk during the harvest season, switching to cheaper alternatives, and preserving food to reduce waste. Starting small, setting small gardens and all that. But it's already happening that the cost of food is going down. I remember 2 days ago, hearing a lady talking to another about that they needed to get to the market because the price of yam had come down low. And okay, I don't know. What have you got to say about these basic things I'm talking about today? The reduction of food stuff price in the market. Have you seen it that way, or you're yet to see it?
Yes, I think. Well, I think tomatoes. I read
yes,
in the news
sure,
about
yes.
tomatoes, and I think a yam. Yes, I've purchased of yam, and you know, yes, we've been seeing that. But I, as a person, as a Nigerian, I'm not really seeing it that this as a result of improve in the economy that made all that to happen. You know, I can see two factors that made the price of certain foods, foodstuff to come down. Not all the foodstuffs, you know, to come down. Like as we are talking about beans and rice and yam, and recently, maybe 2 days ago, tomatoes. You know, one, we are almost at the season of post-harvest of some of these products, and farmers are pushing them into the market. You know, I'm saying that during December, why it fell was because many people want to spend money during December time, so they went to their store, brought out their foodstuff, and they push it into the market. And this January, you know, a lot of people too want to pay school fees, you know, so they put it out, and so that. And couple with
cost, so that they'll be able to
meet the need. Okay. So before you can actually, like in your introduction, you mentioned that if certain things are not put in place by June, you know, the price will go up again. And mind you, that is around the period that we start planting again for next season.
Yes.
You know, so you will see that. But at the minute there is surplus or the economy is improving, there will be no need of the price going up again in the middle of the year, because all they need, government will just go to their silos or whatever, they push more to the market. But what has happened that even recently, government itself imported food. It means that we still have deficit in our production, like rice. We still have deficit in beans, in maize, and you know, sometimes ago, like about 10 years ago, I went somewhere in Ibadan, and as far as Idianure, you know, so I saw this long queue of trailers, you know, on the particular spot. And when I was, you know, going back to town, I told the driver, wait, I want to ask some questions. I went to those drivers. I was asking them that what is going on here that we have this long queue of trailer? Your
journalistic instinct.
Yes, just that they want to enter this particular. They say, this is soya beans that the company uses to produce this vegetable oil and this. So it was through my interaction and curiosity, I learned that some of these trailers came as far as from Mali. Into Nigeria. That tells you that Nigerians we cannot even meet the need of soya beans in the country.
In the country, and not talk of the continent.
You know, so it tells you that even with
just a minute. Some of the vehicles that brought the soya beans to the factory,
yes,
even came from outside Nigeria.
Yes, Burkina Faso, Mali, some Niger. As into Ibadan, we are not even talking of Abuja that is closer to some of these countries. We are talking in Ibadan or your state. You know, the man mentioned from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. That most of them that are there, that they've been on the road for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You know, for them to get to Ibadan. So that is just soya beans. You know, we've not talked of rice. I know we are planting rice almost everywhere now in Bonyi, in Taraba, even we see some peasants.
In Anambra, there's rice.
Anambra too.
In actual fact, I have in my house right now, I have Anambra rice.
Anambra rice. Yes, so I know rice is there because somebody was telling me about Taraba rice and going there, get it in bags, it costs, you know, I'm still make your gain and all this stuff. But
And Kebbi State, that's a major place too.
Yes, it's also, they
I
also
still wonder because they had an
agreement with Lagos State.
With Lagos,
Lagos,
yes.
that
Lake
rice. Yes,
I don't
lake
know
rice.
whether that thing is still in existence.
I think they just use it for political this thing, anchor borrowers money during that time, and they give them money. That is how I say, because I think going by how they did it. By now, lake rice should have flooded the whole
all over the country.
All over the country,
Yes,
not only Lagos, but flooded. Because according to they say Lagos will bring money. The KB State have the land. Lagos will bring money, and they sell at subsidized rate to Lagos State. Lagos State will take it to Lagos to sell.
Yes.
Fantastic idea, but did we sustain that? No. So in this administration, we can see the cost of food price went high, and now they are rejoicing that the price is down now, but me, I'm not really seeing it as a result of government's effort. Yes, government effort in the sense that they also imported food as at Tuesday, while preparing for another program. I also saw in the news that about 32 ships will soon berth at Lagos to drop some food items and all that, to Nigeria. It means so government is also importing. We are not meeting the needs in the country. So they need, government should not just gloat over this, that the price of things. Let's wait till that June. Let's wait till that June that we will see that the price actually came down. Let's wait and see if government can sustain this from now till December 2026. And the price is actually going down. And mind, it's not only the price of rice should come down. It's not only the price of beans should come down. It's not. What about onions? What about pepper? What about yes, we learned tomatoes is going down. What about ogbono? Has ogbono gone down? No. What about egusi?
Yes,
what about
not gone down.
they are still there. Ogbono is expensive.
Yes,
for you to eat ogbono, you must be a big man. For you to eat ogbono, that is common to many people.
Yes.
Same thing with egusi. That is melon. And these are things. And in school, back then in school, they told us that for you to get a balanced diet, you must eat some of these things. And we got it cheap back then. But now that is not the case now. So if the price of tomato is going down, because I mentioned this is, I think tomatoes, this is almost harvest season for tomatoes. So we should not gloat about the price of tomato is going down. I'm not saying that that I should give a plus to the government, because I think harvest season for tomato is around December, January. So it definitely is going to flood the market.
And the problem we have with in our country today is storage facilities, because most of the time when you see these things and after the months of their being around, because there's nothing to store them with, there will be a lot of waste and all that, and people will start going through all this again.
Yes, exactly. Storage facilities is also one of our major problems in Nigeria. Like that is what the business people call the value chain. Yes. So I didn't mean like, okay, the tomatoes, the harvest and post-harvest season, this is the consumption rate, monthly number of metric ton for Nigerians per month, and we are producing this metric ton monthly during harvest period. So therefore, some value chain and store it somewhere so that they'll be pushing it to the market at a point in time, and the price. But we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have that.
Well, that's an unfortunate matter.
Yes.
Well, we'll continue with this, but let's just get over and take something. I don't know whether it's Newsbeat or from the business news, whichever one that's available. Let's take it as we go on.
The federal government has said students in tertiary institutions do not need political influence or godfathers to access loans under the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, NELFund, stressing that the process is automated. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of NELFund, Akin Tunde Sawyer, stated this inaccurate during a visit by the management of the fund to Ondo State Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa as the agency commenced its first Southwest tour of the year. Sawyer explained that eligibility for the government-backed student loan scheme is determined strictly by clearly defined criteria not personal connections. According to him, applicants only need to have admission into a recognized tertiary institutions and provide the required documentation. He said students are expected to submit their biodata and credentials, including Joint Admission and Matriculation Board (JAM) or admission number and national identification number (NIN) through the official online portal. Sawyer said, no student needs a godfather to access this loan. The entire application process is online. There is no physical networking, lobbying, or referral involved. He added that under the scheme, institutional fees will be paid directly to the schools, while successful applicants will also receive stipends to support their upkeep. The NELFON board said the initiative was designed to provide interest-free loans to young Nigerians in response to the country's large youth population and the financial barriers limiting access to tertiary education. He noted that repayment will begin 2 years after completion of the National Youth Service Corps (NIC) through income-based deductions, stressing that the scheme is non-punitive. The chairman of the Presidential Tax Reform Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, has dismissed reports claiming the federal government has suspended issuing guidelines for the implementation of Nigeria's new tax laws due to several uncertainties over the final approved version. There were reports online earlier claiming Oyedele announced this while speaking at a function hosted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. The report claimed that the speculations of a fake gazetted tax laws in circulation was the reason for the suspension of the issuance of the guidelines for the implementation of the new tax laws. However, in a post shared on his X handle, Oyedele described the report as fake news. The federal government has dismissed claims of a CBN ATM withdrawal limit of 500,000 naira per day, urging Nigerians to rely on official policy details. Authorities explained that recent CBN cash reforms have generated confusion across banking halls and online platforms. Officials clarified that the Central Bank of Nigeria did not introduce a 500,000 naira daily ATM withdrawal ceiling. The stress that misinformation has circulated since the release of the updated cash management guidelines. The government said the reforms aims to improve access to cash while supporting financial stability. Specifically, the CBN maintained the existing withdrawal limit on automated teller machines. Authority explained that the 500,000 naira figure refers to a cumulative weekly withdrawal threshold across all channels. These channels include ATMs, point-of-sale terminals, and over-the-counter transactions. The clarification addressed concerns from customers who fear tighter restrictions. Meanwhile, corporate customers can access higher limits within approved thresholds. Withdrawals exceed the stated weekly caps. The structure encourages responsible cash usage without denying legitimate needs. Furthermore, the federal government said the reforms reflect a balanced approach to cash management. Policymakers want to reduce cash handling risks while supporting economic activities. They emphasized that the CBN ATM withdrawal limit remains unchanged on a daily basis. Officials urge banks to educate customers clearly on the revised framework. In addition, authorities highlighted steps taken to improve cash availability nationwide. Banks must load various denominations in ATM withdrawals. Regulators also require regular compliance reports to strengthen oversight. These measures aim to prevent artificial scarcity and enhance consumer confidence. Consequently, the government advised Nigerians to verify financial information through credible sources. Officials warn that misleading reports can trigger panic withdrawals and unnecessary tension. Commitment to transparency in monetary policy communication.
We're here again, and thank you for being part of what we've just had. That happens to be news beats, and then we'll go on. Hopefully there could be the business news, but even in the absence of that, we'll just run on and talking about this. Yes, okay, thank you. I'm still here with my guest, that is Eke Chukunalo.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, and we have come to talk about the fact that looking at the food and all that has to do with it, as our topic says today, the reduction of the price of foodstuff, its impact and what it will mean to us, and we're asking whether there is hope for tomorrow. Looking at all of that, you know, we were talking about storage.
Yes.
I know that. You see, that's one major problem our country has. The major problem our country has is because if we had effective storage system, people wouldn't have been going through much of this problem of food scarcity and all that. Have you gone to markets like these markets that are maybe done once a week or once in 4 days and things like that? I know if you go, or even some that are not like that.
Even daily.
You see so much of it. Go to Duselaji, that a friend that comes, the chairman of the market there. If you see the people who sell foodstuffs, you pity them, because by the time it's evening, when there is nothing else they can do, they have not sold it and they can't take it home, they'll just leave it there and go. That would be total
It will
waste.
cost them extra to
It will cost so much more to take
so
it
much
home
money
and bring
to
it back. Well, when you take it home, it will be spoiled, so you can't even bring it back.
and the funny thing is that if Nigeria understand the value chain, that they can also go back to that is when you are doing integrated farming. You can also go back and turn some of this foodstuff to feed animal feeds. You know, mix them. Like a friend of mine was talking how she is using onugbo, that is bitter leaf, as a medicinal purpose for her poultry. And I was like, oh, we have to mash it, put water, put in their drinks, mix with their feeds, and all that, and makes her poultry looks organic, not with so much concentration of antibiotics that is in their feed. So, like, why can't we sit down and think how, okay, if you're a marketer or a food vendor, you are selling pumpkin leaves, which is ugu. Yes. Then you didn't sell it off. Why can't you think on how to turn it to pellet that goats, rabbits, or your poultry can also consume? With that, you will see that you will not waste much of that. Same thing goes to the issue of tomato. If you go to this market in Nasarawa State, that is in Maraba Orange Market. Okay. You will see wastage there, where some people actually do come to buy. They say they want to buy baje tomato, and you will see whoever that eats baje tomato, we know that he has his own taste, sour and kind of a thing. So it's so fresh, and people still buy it, but they buy it at a lower because price. It's poor quality. You know, Nigerians just need to do what they call integrated farming, that when you can't sell your market and sell whatever, another, is still useful somewhere else. Yes. That is another point. Then, but where we can actually curb some of this, the wastage, is having these storage facility, whereby we can actually, government can invest in this by having, like, tomatoes, for example, that is perishable. You know, within a week your tomato is gone. Where they dry it, you buy machine that can turn it, you know, dehydrate it, remove the watery content, and so that even after the season, you can still if we can't turn it to paste. Yes. You know, you dry it, and if you want it, if we can do dry ginger, if we can do dry garlic, and it still has its value, we can also think of doing that. If we can do dry ugu and send it to UK, send it to abroad for Nigerians demanding for that, we can also think of that here in Nigeria. Plant ugu, dry it during the period that is difficult. Like ugu will be expensive during this period now. I believe during that CPI that MBS released, ugu will not be part of those food items that is dropping, because ugu is going high now, because this is not the season of ugu. Yes. That same thing with some other vegetables in the country, market, in the market, you know. So, but if I think we have that value chain that dry ugu during rainy season, or any vegetable, or what they call it, we do from people from the southwest. We dry them. So during this period now that you have them in store somewhere, and you are no more producing, or the production is low, you release it to the market, you will see that the price will be low.
Yes. There's even another way I have been thinking about for so long. Why can't these markets organize their own storage facilities? Each market will organize for something that is not that hyperloafing, something that is within reach, where they will be able to store most of these perishable goods. I mean, producing, getting to... Even if they can do that in partnership with the government or with banks,
if they should do that,
agric banks,
or maybe they form cooperative to get money to. But if they should do that, how are they going to store it? Like, if you are going to store your beans now, are you going to? Because I know silos. I think they poured silos into.
No. I'm not talking about beans and all these other ones. These ones are harder products.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about mangoes, oranges, tomatoes,
so
all these.
Although the best one is the best one for those ones are value chain is to just turn it to something else. The process you change it to another form, but to retain it. So what's the market? That means you are going into production, manufacturing or industry. You are creating industry out of them. Because for tomatoes, you have to turn it to tomato paste. Yeah. Then you put concentrate. Then you tin it. You start distribute. Before you talk of distribution, you talk of logistics that we now get back to the market. So it's capital intensive to do that. Okay. Now you can also think of that in terms of mango too. Mango, except even if you are going to turn it to concentrate. Like I think there was a time a particular company, I think a Tony Lumelu's company signed agreement with Benue State that they're going to turn mango. Because if you go to Benue State during mango period, I think it's about this time, April, May, or you see mango everywhere. You see like a bucket of mango they'll be giving you for 50 naira, 100 naira. You'll be surprised. Though I don't have this advantage over there.
Yes, though some people, it's also like that in some parts of Enugu State.
Enugu State, yes. You know, Enugu and Benue, you know, they are almost, I see them as one. You know, so what now stops Enugu State government, for example, having a company, a factory that can go to Benue State, buy their mango and bring it to Enugu? Or what stops in Benue State to have a factory that comes down, store, buy the mangoes and turn it to concentrate, change the value. Like I know a particular company that was in Lagos then, that actually have his own farm in Ibadan, in Oyo State, Bomosho. They will go farm pineapple, turn it to juice. You understand? And so the family, they take it to Lagos. With their vehicle, they take it to Lagos. Their factory, is in Lagos. They take it from Ibadan to Lagos. And they turn it, yes, depending on, but where their farm was then, was less than 2 hours, was less than 1 hour self. Definitely they are not going to go during that hold up period. They will move in the night, and they will drop in the factory. So Benue State can also think of that. Or how about cassava? There are so many things you can actually get from cassava. Cassava, you can get gari, you can get ethanol, you can get starch, you can get feeds, so many things you can get from cassava. But how many state governments or even individuals are investing into this that will actually bring the price of this thing down? Which other foodstuff you want to, even the yam, you can't store yam for a long time before now it starts because yes, when we were growing up, you can actually store yam for up to 1 year. And it won't get bad.
Because you had bands.
Yes, we had bands and all those things. But now, if you buy yam put for your house in less than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, by the time you start peeling it, because it's going off and all that.
It's getting bad.
So why can't we turn this to yam flour? To turn it to yam flour, we can actually make what they call amala from it and elubo from it, and almost everybody eating amala these days now, especially those of us in Abuja. Everywhere you see amala signboard and people are eating. And people are eating. So if they can convert some of these things, change the value chain, you see that some of the post-harvest loss that we have, we are not going to have them, and the price will not really affect. Yes, once you change the value, you add service, add the value to the price will change, but it's not going to be the one that people cannot actually afford it, and it will not become so. If you can't eat a raw yam, at least by the time you eat a lubo, you are still eating the same content, just in different form. Carbohydrate is carbohydrate. Either you eat it as solid in that form, or you eat it in amala form. So I think we need to think, and government need to invest in order to make sure that price of food don't really go out of reach of ordinary Nigerians.
That is our prayer, that the price of food should not go out of the reach of ordinary Nigerians. And the other one is that in order to maintain this low price of food stuff now, people are being encouraged to start the backyard farms, the gardens all around their compounds. Some people will tell you that they don't have any space in their compound because everywhere has been interlocked. But then it is funny because these days we have the bag farm system, where you can take cement bags and put sand and a little manure if you want to, and plant whatever you want to plant there, and it will help you. It will be part of beautification for your compound, and something that will still help you feed well.
I don't think we should go into that narrative. People that usually push that narrative are those people that are trying to show the government or the people that they are working for that they are working, coming to television and talk, and they should check any economy, any economy in the world that used backyard farming to grow. They should point to I say Nigeria, they should point to any country in the world that is doing well in agriculture, that use backyard farming to grow. In fact, you can't mention one.
No, there's none really.
Yes, so even with your
it's just for subsistence farming.
Yes, with your backyard farming, can you use it to feed your family for a whole year? It's not possible. Even if you have 50 balls, 50 balls of poultry, it can't take it can't meet your protein needs for a year. You have 50 bags of sack yam it can't meet your needs. So all those narratives are just lazy, as far as I'm concerned, is a lazy man thinking from our policymakers pushing that narrative. What they should do, they should go to Israel and learn how Israel did it. Israel is a desert, and they push one of the highest output in terms of agriculture. They should go to United Arab Emirates. They should learn what they are doing now. Do you know, at a point in time, I learned that the United Arab Emirates actually came to Nigeria at a point in time that they want to be planting their stuff here, and but our president, the then president, did not agree with them. I don't know how true it is, but if it's true, so you can imagine the potentials we have as a country that we should be advocating for, not the backyard sack farming that is going to feed the nation. If you do 50 tubers of yam, and I do 50 tubers, 50, we feed. Both of us, with our production, cannot meet my own personal needs in a year. So we should look at Nasarawa State. Nasarawa State has large expansion, very vast, and how can
very productive?
Yes, and very fertile land. Very fertile. How can we use Nasarawa State to produce food for Nigeria? How can we use Benue State to produce food for Nigerians? How can we take advantage of Bauchi State, during their land? How can we take advantage of Plateau State? How can we take even today? Many people don't know that Kogi State is the largest producers of cashew nuts. is Kogi State taking advantage of being the largest producers of cashew nuts in Nigeria today?
No,
are they having the right revenue for Kogi State? No, definitely no. What can you go to Kwara State and see? We can actually get a good number of cassava from Kwara State.
And even when you talk about cashew nut and all that, and cashew itself in Kogi State, you know, there is this friend of ours that used to come here for us to discuss this, talking about cable and animally. When he brought forth a lot of things that have to do with the products, the byproducts.
Yes, byproduct of cashew.
And I marveled and looked at how can we have all these, and we are still crying.
If you know,
a whole lot of things can come out from there, from wax to polish to a lot. I said, what is this?
You can even make wine. You can even make wine from cashew.
There's juice. Yes.
We are just talking about cashew nuts. We are not even talking about other things. Go and check the international price for cashew. You know, are we taking advantage of that? Definitely no. How did Ghana? How did Côte d'Ivoire took over being the largest producer of cocoa from Nigeria? Took it away from Nigeria, and today, as I'm talking to you, a ton of cocoa is about 15 million naira.
Yes.
So
it's a huge money.
But are we taking advantage of Cross River? Are we taking advantage of Odo State as cocoa producer?
Yes.
Definitely.
Edo too.
Yes, Edo too. But are we taking advantage of that? Definitely no. But do you know that if we actually take advantage of all this and make use of the value chain system, the price of some of these commodities that are very, very expensive in Nigeria, that are out of reach of Nigerians, will actually become so okay. But here we take it to raw, we take it to all these foreign countries for their own advantage. Cocoa, they take it there they turn it, put value chain, turn it to beverages, and they send it back to us and we buy from them, and but Nigerians, no. Okay, just imagine that if we can produce our beverage like we want to have our tea from cocoa. I don't want to mention any brand now.
Yes,
you understand that we are producing them in Nigeria, made in Nigeria for Nigeria by Nigerians.
Yes.
You can imagine how cheap it's going to be. So we are just not taking advantage of that. And don't forget, because I know we soon round up the issue of logistics, cost of fuel is also affecting cost of food price in this country. Moving from one way, for you to move from Nyanya to Zuba, for example, you will spend not less than 2,000 naira.
Yes.
So you can imagine if you just want to transport a bag of rice from there to, let's assume you are selling. If not, rice is cheaper in Mina, in Abuja, when you compare. Stops people living in Abuja to go to Mina to go and buy rice, but by the time you look at the cost of transporting, this thing to Abuja, is almost the same price of what you buy it here and other things. So government should look well into the issue of cost of logistics in bringing transporting this food to various parts of Nigeria. If you look at the price of transporting onions to the south, that's why you see that onions in the south, they see onions like
remain high because of the distance it will go and the process it will go through to be able to come down to that place. That's why, yes, you're correct, because someone that is up north here buys onions for 5,000 and sends it to someone that's down south. The fellow will be so excited. Because of the fact that if they were to go to the market to buy that particular one, you send to them 5,000. They will spend nothing less than 20,000.
Exactly.
So that's it. And I remember that my brother-in-law then had a farm. He still has a farm, but then he was producing cucumber in the farm there, And I was marveled. I really I marveled at the fact that we could do, because I was thinking, what we had understood was that it would only be produced in the north.
In the north, okay.
You know, but then we started seeing it. And even watermelon.
Yes.
And I said, so anything can grow wherever, as far as you're prepared to do the basics.
Yes. If you can just study, if we can study the species or the type that grows in your area. Yeah. The type of beans I saw my grandmother grew down south is not the type of beans we are currently eating. Unfortunately, our government people, they didn't do any research. They didn't do anything for them to, say, okay, this is our homegrown type of beans. Let us so it's now making it look like, hey, we must get beans from a particular side of the country. But I know quite okay that the type of beans my grandmother grew in the south, and we were doing well. At least we see bags that she's going to put what we call uko, so that when she's putting fire, the fire will be drying to dry it. Yes, and
for the rest of the year.
For the years, and so year in, year out, we have maize, we have beans, we have and we have fish, and so
all happening.
Yes.
And you see a well-rounded child growing, because this child has everything that is needed.
Is needed. So it's not that you are going to buy this. We hardly buy anything, food items. Back in those days.
Again, insecurity in the land is also constituting a huge nuisance.
Exactly.
As far as this matter is concerned.
Yes, that one is very, very.
Making people that are supposed to go to farm run away from the farm because they need to have their lives.
Yes.
First of all.
It's not, and when we talk about this, we might think that probably insecurity in the north, but it's not only in the north, even in the south.
All over the country.
They are scared of going to farm. Certain group of people will just come, they come to their crops and destroy them. If you want to challenge, they attack them back and all those things. So government need to really work. Do decisively, so that people can actually go to farm without fear. So back in those days, people sleeps in the farm, but today people don't. They have just what we call no-go. They just do it like that, and they sleep. They're okay, I can't meet up going home.
Let me stay here.
Let me stay here.
People could stay there for even an entire week.
Yes, entire week, some months.
At the end of the week, they will go home. Some will stay 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
That was how some villages or some places were developed to city today, because they were camp at a point in time. They go. Like, I know history says there is a particular place in River State, because they carved them out to River State. They say they moved from our side when they go fishing.
That is in Delta.
Yes, in Delta. When they go fishing, instead of them to come back and all those things, okay, let us just stay there and finish and then after a while they will come back. And before you know that, they just stay there for a while. And before you know that, the place developed.
Yes.
When they wanted to do boundary adjustment in 1976, they carved them to River State. So from there now they became River State people, but I learned that place, that is how they started that camp.
And so has it been with so many other areas.
Yes, and they turned to a city. So, but if in this age now people are afraid to do that, even in the daytime, when you are going to farm, you must make sure you look for somebody that will be around.
Yes.
So that if anything happens.
Yes. So that they even want to build somewhere, so that from where they could look further to see when some negative people will be coming.
Yes.
They will pack up and leave.
Yes. It does. Like if you go to somewhere in Edo State now, because a lot of people move to Edo State for farming and all that, because Edo State have vast land, good for farming and at the point in time they say, no, I am not going there again because of these people. They are disturbing, they are this, they are, and so, and all this is affecting the output, agricultural output, which also inflates the price, because when there is scarcity, demand is there, definitely the price will be high. So government should act swiftly in order to solve this insecurity on every region or every part of the country, because we can't say leave this country and act on the because we still need onions from the northwest.
Yes,
we still need the rice and whatever that come from the northeast. We still from the middle belt. We still need some of their we know that Jos produce good number of carrots and tomatoes, and so we still need them.
And all these things. What is that one that is
Irish potato.
Yes.
I think that is the only place they
find
it like that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, my dear colleague, and for all that has happened today. You have helped bring it out effectively, and we have talked about that.
Yes,
I want to thank you again.
It's my pleasure.
God bless you so much.
Yes, thank you.
As I always tell my guests, may this not be the last time we'll have you on this program.
Yes, it's definitely it's not going to be the last.
We want to have you again and again, please, because we have made sense. Talking about these things. I want to thank you, dear viewers, for being there to being part of what has happened today. Quite a pity we were not able to get you the other things, and well, some other time we will go ahead and get all these presented to you. I want to say to Adebayo Sanusi, thank you also for doing your work, and I want to also say thank you to Victor Adeyeye and Victor Chizea for getting us on. Thank you so much. And a lot has happened, and we'll be letting it be at this point in time. Let me not forget that Obed Egborelu got us on to here, and of course, somehow, that there was Sam Omaji. This is Okechukwu Onubogu. And what have I got to say? May the best happen to us all the time.
If we had a better structure, I thought I had some kind of stuff in mind to say geopolitical zones. And we had a plan that every geopolitical zone must have a power station, for example. That means we have a minimum of 6 strong power stations.
Yes.
It's very important that we embrace these investors.
I think what they want to do now is to be able to